Once upon a time, in a small village tucked between quiet hills, there was a little girl named Mira. She was 5 years old, quiet, observant, a little shy in crowded places, but bright with curiosity. She didn't speak much, not because she didn't know how, but because she was always listening to the sound of the rain tapping softly on the roof, to the wind moving gently through the trees, to the small, hidden things most people walked right past. Mira sang more than she spoke, not out loud, but inside, where music lived in the sway of flowers and the rustle of grass. She danced alone, often barefoot in the garden, twirling slowly to music only she could feel. Even in her dreams, her feet would move, softly, freely. Nature wasn't something Mira pointed at and named. It wasn't a thing to memorize or explain. To her, nature was a friend. She didn't just look at flowers, she noticed them, the way their petals curled, the way they leaned toward the light. She spent most days in her grandmother's vegetable garden, barefoot with dirt on her hands and leaves tangled in her hair. She followed bees without worrying they might sting. She chased dragonflies through rows of tomatoes and mint because she wanted to see where they'd go. Her grandmother smiled at her curiosity, but not every day. Sometimes her grandmother had to leave early to sell fresh vegetables at the farmer's market in town. And on those days, Mira would be left alone in the house. She didn't cry. She wasn't afraid. But she would sit by the window quietly, holding her plush rabbit and watching the shadows shift across the walls. She didn't know how long she'd have to wait. She just hoped someone would come home soon. When she turned 5, Mira was sent to kindergarten. And for a girl like her, kindergarten felt like too much and too little, all at once. There were songs to sing on command, lines to stand in, naps in a room full of other children, numbers to trace, names to write. The noise was constant. The pace was fast. Some of the kids were kind. Others weren't. Sometimes the boys pushed. Sometimes the girls laughed for reasons Mira didn't understand. She tried her best, but she didn't know how to belong in a place that didn't make space for quiet hearts. One morning on her way to school, Mira stopped walking. A small garden near the sidewalk had exploded with wildflowers. Butterflies hovered and floated above the petals like tiny dancers. She stood there, completely still, not scared, just mesmerized. In that moment, she remembered her favorite cartoon, The Flower Fairy, a girl who touched blossoms and turned into someone magical, someone gentle who helped people through kindness and quiet strength. So Mira stayed, with the butterflies, with the flowers, with herself. She didn't go to school that day. Later, when she saw older children walking home, she quietly followed behind them. She didn't know what time it was, only that something inside her said, "This feels right." When her mother opened the door and saw her, home far too early, there was surprise, then confusion, then anger. There was scolding, questions Mira didn't know how to answer. She stood in the doorway, muddy feet on clean tile, eyes lowered, hands clasped in front of her. A tear slipped down her cheek. She wasn't sad because she was in trouble. She was sad because no one had asked why she stayed with the butterflies. Later that evening, she tried to explain about the garden, about how her shadow looked long and beautiful when she danced by the fence, about how the flowers seemed to move when she spun. But her parents were too tired, too distracted, too full of their own adult noise. They nodded without hearing, and Mira stopped trying. So she turned to someone who never rushed her, her rabbit. And when he slept, she whispered to her stuffed duck. She told them everything, every color she saw, every quiet thing she felt that day, every question that didn't need an answer. And later that night, she dreamed of a black puppy, a small one, soft and loyal, who would run beside her without asking where they were going, and never pull her away from the places she felt safe. Because for Mira, freedom wasn't just something she wanted. It was something she understood. Something she remembered from before the world got too loud to hear her heart.